Hello and welcome to Three Questions with. Got my friend Alysa with us. Good morning, Alysa. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Kevin. Thank you.
Alysa, I actually come on the show today because I have a question for you, and it's about culture. So I was laughing with you before the show, Alysa. I'm old, and I never really thought about culture when I worked. You work someplace, you worked hard, and just hope it all worked out. Not that way anymore. I find especially younger people, they're looking for a good fit. Is this company doing something that I'm aligned with? Are they providing me the opportunities and the flexibility I want? And again, as someone who's a little bit old, I struggle with that, saying because I never had that. And as an employer, I know it's important, but if I don't understand it, how can I create it? So do you have some advice of how to create that culture that feels inclusive and makes people want to work with me?
Yeah, so I think the first part is you have to understand that there are five, almost six generations in the workforce, right? And so that's your biggest hurdle that you have to start with is the fact that you're now having to please five different generations of people who have different expectations. And then when you look at what your mission is and how you want to bring that forward, right? And then how the culture of work is changing, how remote work is becoming more popular, how hybrid work is becoming more popular, right? Create understanding what does your culture want? That means literally asking your employees, what do you want from this culture? And having those very transparent, frank, open communication conversations, right? And having those dialogues so that you can really understand what they're looking for. You're not going to please everybody, but you can create a culture then that aligns with how you want to operate as a company and how it aligns with the employees that you feel, that align with your vision and your mission and going forward, right? And then everybody understands the expectation of your culture and can make the decisions from there. But culture then, once you identify what your culture is, a lot of people see culture as HR's job, right? Oh, it's HR's job to drive the culture. It's HR's job to create the culture. It's not. HR, yes, can create those policies and can help you drive what that looks like. Yep. But the leadership team, the CEO, those members of leadership, all the way through the entire organization, everybody helps with culture. The leadership team sets the example of what culture will look like, but everybody sort of lives and breathes and feels that culture. So you have to look at it as, understanding what your employee base wants. And that's really the first step, is making sure that you align with what your employees want. And maybe your company doesn't want that, and that's okay, right? But then you have to risk losing the employees that don't align.
Yeah. But that's not as easy as it seems, because like you said, there's so many different generations that may want different things. So we have to kind of just find the balance, saying, hey, this is what's important to the people over 60, the people under 30, to try to make it all work out. Seems challenging, my friend.
That's why I don't believe in policies that are one size fits all, right? So for me, even hybrid remote work policies, I believe in work from anywhere policies, right? Then you're giving people a choice. I can come into the office if I want to. I can work from Seattle if I want to. I can work from a co-working space with other people if I want to, right? So I make the choice that's best for me and then manage the performance from there. If there's, people are not performing well, if there are expectations that aren't being met, you manage from there. But that's why I believe that policies are not one size fits all. And it's the same thing with culture. There are going to be aspects of the culture that don't resonate with people. And how then do you get them to understand where you're coming from, but also be on board with you, right? And some of that means maybe making concessions, accommodations, understanding that you're not going to be on the same page, and then what's next, right?
It's so funny because I find, I'm going to generalize, my generation struggles with that, work from any. And when I have this conversation with my friends, I'm like, why do you care? If she's an amazing employee and getting her job done and she wants to work in Seattle, and I like what you said, some people want to come to the office. They like that structure. They don't want to work from home because they know, like, maybe I'll watch a couple episodes of Netflix before I start working. They don't want that thing. But I've spoken to people and they're so hung up on that. I'm like, it's silly. You're going to lose great people. And, they give me example. I'm like, So you're really happy with her overall performance. She's an amazing employee. Who cares what she's doing? She's getting the job done. Because I've worked in environments where it's 9 to 5, and you would finish at 10 minutes to 5. You would literally sit at your desk with your hands folded for 10 minutes because it's not 5 p.m. And I look, what are you doing? Like, I'm done. Then go home. Yeah, please don't go home at 4. I mean, find something to do. But if you finish 10 minutes early, you started 10 minutes early, I don't want to judge you on a clock. I want to judge you on your performance. If you're doing what I need you to do, well, good. And you see some people look at you, they're suspicious. You sure? Like, I know it's 5 minutes to 5, but God forbid you should leave. No, just sit at your desk. I'm like, it's silly. Just go.
Yeah.
That
And
much.
and that's part of the culture, right? I mean, so, we have to understand that most people, they don't come in, they're not like, a lot of people aren't clock punchers, right? I'll call it, we don't say, okay, I'm gonna sit here. I got here at 7, so I have to sit here for the next 3 hours. Like, we're not like that. And so sometimes your job could take you 6 hours to do, but you're now at work for 8.
Yep.
So what do you do with the other 2 hours? You go and talk to people, you go whatever,
Yeah.
right? And so rather than saying, it took me 6 hours to do my work today, but tomorrow it might take me 9, right? Rather than operating with that mentality of like, get your work done and I'm happy with whatever product you produce, right? Because your work is getting done. There are going to be days when you work over 40 hours. There are going to be days when you work over, 50 hours, right? And so it all balances out in the end. But to your point about some people that can't grasp this work from anywhere concept, I think it's really because people view being at home as having those distractions. And, I sort of laugh at that because for me, right, I was like, when I was working on site, I sat on a different floor from my manager. So my manager would have no clue if I was outside talking to 6 employees, if I was walking the floor. But to them, because I'm in the building, I'm working.
Yep.
But I'm like, I'm actually more productive at home, even with those breaks. If I go down and do laundry, if I watch an episode of TV,
Yep.
right? Because of the fact that I actually was taking my breaks, which I wasn't feeling like I could do in the environment I was in. It wasn't like I felt like I was allotted to get up and take that time because I was so busy doing other things. And so sometimes it works differently for people. And some people with that work from anywhere policy, they might want to come in 1 or 2 days to get the team environment, but they also might want to work from home a couple of days to have the flexibility.
So one follow-up question that I think is important that starts at the top. I have to hold my team accountable. If this is the culture, because we went out and asked people, I really like that point. Don't assume, ask, because you may like, oh, young people want this, people over 50. Don't guess when you can just go out and say, hey, what do you want? To me, that makes perfect sense. Go out and ask, right? But you have to hold people accountable. If we just said, this is the policy, this is the culture we're creating, then I have to hold all the other managers, employees to it. Hey, it's
That's
not
why it
just
has to start
something
with
on the wall,
leaders.
because we get this is
Right.
our culture. We hang it on the wall. And if we walk by going, Alysa, what's the culture? I see you turn your head. If you're turning your head to read it on the wall, we did something wrong. Yeah.
Right. But this is why the leaders have to be the drivers, right? The leaders have to then say, we're going to live this culture. We're going to breathe this culture. And that means we're going to instill it in our first line managers. We're going to instill it in our supervisors. We're going to demonstrate this culture to our employees when they come to us, when they need something, when we offer them something, right? And so it has to be that most senior level in your organization has to be the ones that are starting this living and breathing of this culture that your employees want, and making sure that everybody else stays true to it, or making sure that everybody understands it. And then, the other people can help. HR can help, right? And they can all help and pitch in, but the leadership team has to drive that
Yeah.
bus.
So now, if people are having trouble developing a culture, is that something you can help them with? Just getting them to think outside of what we're used to. Because unfortunately, at the end of the day, we all think about our own experience and what worked for us and didn't. So can you help people by sitting down with them saying, okay, here's some of the questions you should be asking. Here's some of the things you should be considering. Can you teach them, how to develop the steps to build a culture?
Yeah, and so part of what I do is I always say, you know, I want them to focus on culture, people, and strategy, but I can help them with any of those three areas. But I want them to be the ones that are the face and the driving force behind those things. But I can help them understand how their culture might be limiting their ability to hire talent, how their culture might be contributing to their turnover rate, how their you know their culture might be contributing to animosity or frustrated employees, right? All of those things, and being able to explain that to them and help them understand by using examples that are statistical, by using examples from their competitors. And then even, you know, going in and taking data from those employees or partnering with some of the vendor partners that I've made connections with through groups like yours and through other avenues, and say, hey, I have these great partners that do these kinds of things who can then also help you create deeper action plans and really understand what your employees need. So I can call in other resources if necessary, but that is part of what I can do, is start to have those conversations.
Awesome. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you? How can they learn more, my friend?
I'm all over LinkedIn. My website is apeoplepartnerllc.com, and there you will find my phone number, my email, everything that you will need to get in contact with me.
Awesome. Alysa, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call into the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thank you.